Hey folks, Ryan here from Mista Rau's Gaming Rants and Reviews, and I've got a special episode here today. Instead of doing a rant, I have been tagged in this Tabletop Tagged challenge. I've been nominated by the very fantastic, the very entertaining, the very funny David Rodriguez of all games, new and old. I have to thank David for tagging me, thinking of me for once, and actually being into, doing some content like this. If you are not familiar with David's channel, I highly recommend you go in to check him out. All games new and old on YouTube. Some of his reviews are some of the most clever and funniest things that you'll ever see, especially the special guests that he actually managed to get into every one of those episodes. He's a very popular guy, so definitely go and check him out there. So yes, the tabletop tag. I've got a list of 20 questions here that I'm going to answer from David. And at the end of this, I guess the 20th question is I'm going to ask some other content creators for and I'm going to tag them into this challenge. So I guess without further ado, let's run down the list here. This should be a lot of fun here. Number 1 here says name, age, and location. So I'm Ryan, Mista Rau, for the Gaming Rants and Reviews. I am 39 years old, and I hail from the booming metropolis of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, up here in Canada, smack dab in the middle of the prairie provinces where there is not a lot going on most of the time. We do come from the city. It's referred to as the City of Bridges because there is a river that actually runs through Saskatoon. So there's about 7 bridges that connect the two parts of the city here. And yeah, we've got if you ever have a chance, they refer to it as the Paris on the prairies, but I really don't see it. I guess I've lived here my entire life for the majority. So so Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, it's okay, I guess. I live here. I call it home. The second thing here it's asking us is the favorite childhood board game, and I have to really think about this one because there was an episode of What You've Been Playing Wednesdays that we recorded quite a while ago, and I spoke about this game very fondly because it was one of those games that came out. It was a lake game, and it had one of my favorite themes because I was all about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at the time. So there was this silly little game called the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Pizza Power game, and it was very, very silly. It was a very simple roll and move ish style of game, but you moved and you could battle the different bad guys across the Ninja Turtle universe. Like there was Rocksteady, Bebop, the Shredder, Krang, and all those things. And you can collect the turtle cards that helped you beat these guys up. And actually how you did some of your challenges is that they had this thing that they referred to as the battle flipper. And it was this really, really interesting dexterity kind of thing where you had to flip a die into one of the compartments by just smacking the seesaw thing. And it was horrible. It was frustratingly horrible. But for some odd reason, we played the crud out of this game over and over again at the lake, on the vacations, all the time. So I am going to attribute one of my favorite childhood board games is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Pizza Power game, because this is one of those games that I still remember playing and trying to launch the dice as far across the room as possible in this little seesaw thing. It was absolutely fantastic. Question number 3 here is asking about when did you, quote unquote, really get into the board gaming hobby? And for me, this happened probably about 10, maybe even upwards 12. I'm trying to pinpoint the exact time. It was around the time that I met my now my wife, at the time just kind of like girlfriend, acquaintance, and everything. And she had invited me over for a game night with some of her friends. And I remember fondly thinking that this was going to be absolutely horrible. Like who game night, board game, like game night. That's really not quite my thing. And so I met a few people, and now really, really good friends of ours. And Ian had introduced and brought over this game called Alhambra. And this really, really opened my eyes that, oh my goodness, I've never heard of a game or played a game, board game, quite like what this one was offering. And I got hooked. I got talking to Ian quite often. We were messaging back and forth. Realized that there was actual game stores here in Saskatoon. And I guess that's about that. I think that was the day that I really, really got hooked into this hobby. I realized that there was a little bit more than what met the eye. I guess when it came to gaming. So I would attribute to that one game night about, I want to say it was about 10 years ago now. Maybe slightly more, maybe 11, 12 years ago. But it was that one game night that I think that really got me into this, that introduced me into this hobby. What was the first game that I purchased, and do I still own that game? So again, it was the first game that I had played. We enjoyed it so much that we actually went out and bought it a couple days later, and that was the game Alhambra by Durkan Queen Games published it. And I do still own this game. Now, I don't own the exact copy that I owned back then. I now own the Queen Games big box, mega box version. It's the big box. It's got all of the expansions, some upgraded components and whatnot. And we do still play this thing quite regularly because it is one of my wife and I's favorite games of all time, Alhambra by Durkan. Question number 5 here is asking about any hobbies other than board games. And much now that I have a young family, I don't really have a lot of other hobbies other than board gaming. I used to be really, really into martial arts. I do have my 3rd degree black belt in Taekwondo. Still really, really enjoy that scene and following things that are going on in there. I really do enjoy following football, especially NFL football. Go Green Bay Packers. Am I right, Maurice? And then we also have a professional football team here in Canada. We have the CFL, and we have the Saskatchewan Roughriders that are housed in Regina, and I do follow them quite a bit. So I like following football, and I still do enjoy following martial arts and the mixed martial arts scenes. But yeah, I still want to go back. I'm going to go back to my Taekwondo days. There's a lot of things. There's still a lot of muscle memory in there that I believe could actually play out eventually at some point in time. Okay, this one, number 6 here says your breakthrough game. Now, okay, so Alhambra was the one that kind of introduced me to things. And then there's subsequent game nights. I remember this kind of this logical progression. And then Ian kind of introduced me to like the Settlers of Catan, and then we played like the Ticket to Rides, we played Carcassonne, we played Dominions, and all these other things. And then there was another one. There was a game afternoon that it was just Ian and I playing, and he showed me this game called the Race for the Galaxy, and this was kind of like that. I would consider at that time for me the real next step up into kind of like some complexity into some of these styles of games. And man, oh man, did I get hooked on Race for the Galaxy for a while. And it's the game that I couldn't stop thinking about, and the icons and the combinations and the order in which things are coming out and the action selection. And there's in such a tight little package, there was so much going on that I was just like, okay, yes, this is the puzzle that I want to figure out. This was really, really quite cool. And I think it was that moment. And then it was like, that was the spiraling moment. Like, oh man, then I got introduced to things like Castles of Burgundy. And I can't remember. It was right around there. But I think it was that afternoon with Race for the Galaxy that really kind of blew things open. And then I started discovering that there's other styles of games like Descent, Journeys in the Dark 2nd Edition. I kind of caught onto that one, the dungeon diving type things. And yeah. So I would say that my breakthrough game, the one really kind of pushed me really over the edge, was that Race for the Galaxy afternoon. A theme that always will draw me in. This is question number 7, and behind me, it may not look like from my background right now, but I do really enjoy a good space-themed game. Anything that's kind of set into space, I will gravitate, and that one will draw my attention more so than, say, some of these other games. Now, I say like the ones that are front-facing behind me right now doesn't really lend to that train of thought. But a good space-themed game, like some of my favorite games, Star Wars Rebellion, Twilight Imperium, Eclipse, Gaia Project, like lots of those style of games with the space theme on top of them. Yeah, I really enjoy science fiction. I'm a Doctor Who fan. I'm a Star Wars fan. Lots of those types of things really get me excited when a game comes out with that style of theme. So I'm going to say that. Question number 8 here is asking about my favorite mechanisms or mechanism. And boy, there are a lot of them out there. And I'm trying to think of I probably know the game, the mechanism that I probably own the most in my collection is probably worker placement. But to say that it's my favorite mechanism, I'm not 100% sure. But I am really quite drawn to the style of game where you have action points to spend on your turn, or spend in a round, or spend on your turn in order to perform said number of actions. Arkham Horror, the card game, does this where you have the 3 action points that you can use to do a variety of different actions. Blood Rage has the system of the rage counter, where everything that you do in the game costs you a certain amount of rage. So you have a certain amount of action points that you can spend in a certain era or round. I really do enjoy that style of game, that kind of mechanism where I have a set number of action points to use either turn to turn or round to round. I find it fascinating, and I don't see it as often as I probably would really like. A close runner-up is set collection for me. Any games where I'm getting to collect a whole bunch of things and then turn them into points, I actually do really enjoy that. Number 9 here is saying a mechanism that you don't like or that you aren't very good at. And right now, right off the top here, trading and auctioning. I'm going to lump the two in the same there. I do enjoy trading games that has that whole interaction with other players at the table and bringing in that player interaction. And auctioning, again, with the same thing. Except for I'm absolutely terrible at trying to figure out what things are worth and valuing certain things inside of the games. We just played a game called Chinatown not too long ago, and man, oh man, it's just a straight up trading war in that game, and I didn't do very good because people are making trades with me, and I'm just like, yeah, sure, why not? Because I can't sit there and analyze the board state and things and come up with a value or what's a valuable I'm absolutely terrible at trading. And the same thing with auctioning. I played a game of Power Grid, and man, I always auction like way too high, and people are like, oh boy, that move smells of desperation type thing. Yeah, auctioning, trading, I do enjoy it, but I'm terrible. I'm terrible at evaluating what something is worth. Number 10 here, the newest games to my collection, and have I played them yet? So like you see back behind me here, I constantly have new games coming into the collection quite frequently. And so my newest games actually here would be games like I have Sobek, 2 players, and Land versus Sea, 2-player only style of games, because that is kind of the main player count that we get to play at here. And I have not played them yet. They are opened and the rules have been read. Now we're just waiting for an evening that my wife and I can kind of sit down and kind of enjoy each other's company and play through these games. So Sobek, 2 players, that is designed by, I believe, Bruno Cathala, and is published by Pandasaurus Games. And then we've got Land versus Sea, which I believe, oh gosh, it's escaping me at the particular moment. I don't have the box in front of me. It's upstairs. And everything. So those are 2 of the newest games to my collection. I guess the newest game that I've actually played in my collection is Meeples and Monsters by AEG Games. And that one we have played. That's quite newer, and it is a lot of fun. It's got that Orleans bag building feeling to it, where you're adding meeples to them, and the meeples are worth so many combat points, and you're going out and you're battling monsters across the town. It's got a little bit of a Lords of Waterdeep feeling too, because you're constructing buildings that are common to everybody else that you can use their powers. But that is one that I have played that is actually newer to the collection. Question number 11 here is favorite player count. And since 90% of all my plays are with my wife or with my son, the 2-player count is by far my favorite player count, just because that is the one that I get played the most. Other than 2 players, if I get to have a game night with some friends or get to go out to a game night somewhere, then my next favorite player count is like the 4-player count, just sitting at a table with a group of guys or a group of people that I get to play with regularly. So 2 players probably about 90% of the time, and then if it's actually part of a gaming evening or a gaming week, I do enjoy playing games with multiple numbers of people. But I don't like the game. I don't really tend to gravitate towards games that play more than 4 players. So take that for what it is. I like playing at 4 players too. What is my board gaming pet peeve? Oh gosh, that's actually why I started this channel, because it's called Mista Rau's Gaming Rants and Reviews. And so there's a lot of things that bug me here and there, and that's kind of why I wanted to do the rants and everything. But I guess one of my biggest pet peeves is teaching. The teaching of the game, or somebody else's teaching the game, and then there's the players at the table that are not paying attention. Okay, they are not paying attention to the teach. They're distracted by other things. They're on their phones. They're distracted. They're talking to other people, asking different questions, and they're not paying attention to the teach. And that really, really always really bugs me. And that's probably because, as a profession, I'm a high school math teacher. And so one thing that we do expect is that, your students are engaged with you throughout the learning process. And man, oh man, it bugs me in the classroom. It bugs me when I'm out of the classroom, when people are not paying attention to what they're supposed to be doing. They're ignoring the teach. And then all of a sudden, you're into the game. What does this do again? Or what do I do on my turn? We literally just taught you that. You should have been paying attention. So you're not going to get any sympathy from me. Number 13 here. What player color do you use most often? English language is hard. Is it hard to tell? Green. I play green all the time. The Green Bay Packers, the Saskatchewan Roughrider football team here in Saskatchewan, our home colors are green and white. So I gravitate towards green 99 times out of 100. Read the rulebook or watch a how to play video. This one I'm going to answer that it's a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. What one do I do first? Well, it depends on my interest in the game. If a game hasn't come out yet and there are some how to play videos, I will probably watch the how to play video before I even purchase the game to see if I even like it or not. So there are lots of how to play videos that come out when games first come out. And that will usually give me a good sense of if I'm going to like the game or not, if I can watch that process beforehand. Now, there are times where I am going to get a game, or I'll buy a game on a whim, and I have not watched a how to play video yet on it, so I will end up reading the rulebook. If I had my choice, I would always read the rulebook first, and then I would watch a how to play video to kind of cement what did I just finish reading style. I do come from the mindset that I think rule books are important. They are there. They were made for the purpose of teaching you the game without any other external knowledge influencing your learning of the game. I think the rule book is very important. But on that said, I will usually watch a how to play video and even a playthrough video of a game before I even decide on purchasing them. So take that as is. If I don't watch the how to play, I will read the rule book first before I do the how to play. Okay. Number 15, favorite snack to eat while playing board games. I'm a chip monster. I love chips. So I will always have some style of chips. Now, there has to be a caveat here that there has to be as little residue on the chips as possible, especially when you're playing card style games and whatnot. So, even though I do like my chips, I have to have the chips that are as little residue on them. So, like things like Doritos, I love Dorito chips, but I just can't bring myself to eating them while I'm playing the board games. So quite oftentimes, like, I do love chips. Chips are like one of my all-time favorites. But if it's not going to be chips, then I like popcorn. I know it's not one that you hear very often, but I do really, really, really enjoy popcorn because I'm a guy that kind of likes to season them a little bit with like some salt and pepper on top of them. But I'm not the guy that puts butter upon butter on my popcorns. I know it sounds kind of weird, but I do love popcorn, not buttery. It makes your hands feel sticky and residuey. So sprinkle a little salt and pepper type thing on them, and I love it. So chips number one, popcorn very close second, almost number one as well. Number 16 here. Have you ever been to a board game convention? If so, which ones? I have been to a couple board game conventions. Other than we have a local convention here in Saskatoon. It's referred to as ToonCon, which is a great gaming weekend with a whole bunch of guys. The ToonCon crew does a very good job at making it a very accessible weekend, and lots of things going on. It's focused right around the gaming. There is an auction there. But one of my very first bigger conventions, it is now referred to as Dice Tower West, but before it was Dice Tower West, it was referred to as MeepleCon in grandiose Las Vegas, Nevada. We went, myself and a good friend of mine, Norm, from the Cardboard Conjecture podcast. We went down there, and that was a fantastic gaming weekend. Really enjoyed it. I got to play some games. I even got to play a game with Ryan Lockett, and before I even knew who Ryan Lockett was. Fantastic man, fantastic individual. I still remember that. A game. I believe we were playing Voyages of Marco Polo. Actually, it was the game at the time. So, and then another Canadian convention that I've been to is in one province over in Alberta. City's called Calgary, and they have FallCon every fall here, and that was the last convention that I've been in attendance to, was right before the pandemic caused the world to kind of go all aflutter. I was at FallCon, and I believe I'm going to be getting geared up to go to FallCon again here at the end of at the end of August. I believe it's coming up here. So if there are any Canadian board gamers here watching this particular video, you probably will see me in Calgary at the end of August at FallCon. Really, really looking forward to that. Because they got how to plays, they got a big old gaming library, they got tournaments, they got an auction, they got a little bit of everything going on at demos and prototype alleys and whatnot. It's a really, really fun weekend. I look forward to going to it again. An unreleased game that you are most looking forward to. Now, I do a segment on Cardboard Conjecture's podcast with the Meeple Dungeon every now and then, where we talk about what's new to our collection and also what's on our radars. And I've mentioned a few things that are on my radars, but I think the one that's hot on my radar right now, that's currently on Kickstarter as of this recording, and that is Septima by Mindclash Games, because I'm a huge Mindclash Games fan. I got a few of their games over the top of my corner. You see I got Tricarion and I've got Anachrony up there. I'm really, really big fan. I'm a backer of Voidfall. I'm really looking forward to Septima because it's got a really cool theme of witches and their covens and trying to become the next high priestess in your coven. And there's the simultaneous action play going on, and if players around the table have selected the same action, the actions are powerful. There's witch hunts that are going on in the game. Really, really looks kind of cool. So that is an unreleased game. It's actually right fresh on Kickstarter right now as of this recording. Septima, can't wait for that one to finish its campaign and get into my hands probably within the next year to a year and a half. That's probably what's going to go on. What is your favorite thing about the board gaming hobby? And 100% right here, it's the people that I get to play games with, whether or not that is physical or in the lately the digital world. I really, really enjoy the company that I get to keep with lots of these people that I get to play games with. It's my wife and I that get to play games together, so we get to know each other quite well over a game, conversations. Sometimes the game is just the activity in the background. I get to play games online with some friends through Board Game Arena, or even we've become very, very good at setting up Zoom meetings where we have the top-down cameras looking at the boards, and we're replicating the board states across things. I get to play card games with like Robb from the Meeple Dungeon via Zoom, and just the conversations that you get to have and the people that you get to meet and the friends you make around the tables. I think that's one of the things that that's my most favoriteest thing about the board gaming hobby, is the company that you get to keep and the friends that you get to make. And this community is just by far just like getting tagged in this Tabletop Tag challenge by David. I've only known David a short little while. I've only talked to him like through a Zoom call, like only a few times, and yet he was so awesome enough to nominate me for this particular challenge. So I love the people and the company we get to keep around our tables. Number 19 here. Open and punch a game right when you get it, or wait until you play it for the first time. My answer here is going to be a little, it's not quite A and it's not quite B. I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I definitely don't punch the games out right when I first buy them. They probably sit for a little bit, and then when it's kind of in my brain, where it's like, you know what, let's play this game. So I'll have to open up the game and punch it out and everything like that, and then I'll probably learn the game first. So I'm not when I'm first playing it, and then it's probably gonna stew in my brain for a while after I've read the rule book, I've punched out the components, I've probably done like a little solo mini, and then I'll actually play the game with somebody like my wife or a gaming group here in Saskatoon and everything. So it's like I guess it leans more towards I wait until I'm gonna play it for the first time, even though it's like I'm not punching it out the night that I am going to play the game, unless if the game is just a deck of cards where I can just take the cellophane wrap off them and boom, bada bing, bada boom, and you're on your way. I'll probably do that sometimes, but not if it's a bigger the time investment game and everything. Okay, number 20, here is the other people that I'm going to see that I'm going to do this challenge. So I'm going to wait off that one because there are a couple questions that I'm going to answer from Twitter here. When I was nominated here, I asked Twitter if they would ask me, and I got a couple good questions I'm going to ask. Maurice Andrews Jr., who I've had on the channel before, he asked me about an Arkham horror scenario that I would love to see, play out, or a scene that I would like to see come into Arkham horror. And this was a tough one because I'm not a huge Cthulhu mythos fan. I don't know all of the H.P. Lovecraft stories or anything that these stuff is based around, but I do have an idea of an Arkham horror scenario or scenarios that I have playing around in the back of my brain, and it's kind of more of a scenario. It's more of a very niche style scenario because I would really, really like a scenario that really has rewarded the players that have kind of kept up with the game, the longevity of the game. That's, they invested the time and effort throughout the whole thing. I would love to see some sort of cross-campaign style scenarios where it's like, hey, as I'm playing this game, all of a sudden one of the decisions that I've made has now warped me into, say, like the core box, one of the core box scenarios. And now I have to play through that core box scenario as part of my campaign. Maybe there's something different about the time that I'm playing it during this new campaign as opposed to, like, say, the core box scenario. Or being able to bring in some of the big bads and the monsters from other campaigns into the new campaign. So, like, usually some of these monsters and these things that are really campaign specific are not coming into play throughout the other. So I would like to see somebody who's, like, done some investment. I know it's a very niche style thing, but I would love to see that kind of cross-campaign, interwoven narratives type thing. Maybe we can introduce it through, like, some sort of, like, time travel or a multiverse style of thing that's coming in. I think, I don't know, there might be something there might not be. It's really hard. It's, like I said, it's very niche. There's not too many of us out there that literally own everything that belongs to Arkham Horror. And another question here, and I have to shout out, this is Ian, a good friend Ian, the guy who got me into the board gaming hobby. He asked the question, what is one thing that is name one reason why Terra Mystica is better than Gaia Project? Because I have been known to say that Gaia Project is the better version. And in my mind, that's because of the space theme, and there is a little bit more complexity to Gaia Project than there is to Terra Mystica. So one thing that I will say that I like better about Terra Mystica rather than Gaia Project would be that Terra Mystica would be a great way to teach somebody about Gaia before I introduce them into Gaia Project. That's not to say that Terra Mystica is a simple game. By all means, there is a lot of interwoven mechanisms going on there. It has some complexity to it, but it would be a really good way to teach somebody that system, because Gaia Project, I believe, is the next step in the evolution of what's going on. Yes, most of the gameplay is very similar in style, but there are different things in Gaia Project that kind of just take the complexity up. So one thing that I'll say why Terra Mystica is better than Gaia Project is that I can actually teach somebody Terra Mystica probably easier than I can teach somebody Gaia Project for the very first time. I don't know if that's the answer you're looking for, Ian. Gaia Project, I believe, still is the better game, and I'm just going to put my pin in that for now. Okay, my last question here, number 20 here, says, others that I would like to see do this tabletop tag challenge, and this is a very easy list for me to come up with. They are all really good friends of mine in the gaming hobby, and I have interacted with them in many different forms, one way or another. And so right up at the top, top three that I would like to see do this challenge would be Robb and Anna-Marie from the Meeple Dungeon podcast. I've interacted with them many a times, and they are some of the most awesome people that you will ever meet and get to talk to. And their podcast is so genuine that it is just listening to a couple just talk about their experiences with the gaming hobby. Fantastic. So I nominate the Meeple Dungeon, Robb and Anna-Marie. I nominate Jayson and Julie from Dice and Dragons YouTube channel. I've gotten to know Jayson and Julie quite well. Jayson probably the most because I do appear on his show Kickstarter Excess or Value from time to time with Robb and Anna-Marie. And we have just so much of the similar gaming styles and taste that we just kind of naturally gravitated towards friendship. And yeah, so I nominate Jayson and Julie from Dice and Dragons YouTube channel. And of course, I can't do a challenge like this and not nominate my good friend Norm from the Cardboard Conjecture podcast. Cardboard Conjecture podcast was a huge piece of me getting into the content creation world. I appeared on the first 113 episodes before I had to take a bit of a break, and now I'm back into the content creation space, and now I'm appearing about every 2 episodes now back on Cardboard Conjecture. So I have to nominate Norm, probably the hardest working man in the tabletop industry, as he's producing 2 podcasts a week, which is insane. I don't know how he does it with all his other things that he's got going on. He's producing the Cardboard Conjecture podcast, and he's also producing the Whatcha Been Playing Wednesday podcast, which is a collaboration with a whole bunch of other Canadian content creators. Robb and Anna-Marie and Jayson and Julie are also part of that project as well. So Norm, I nominate you. I am also going to nominate some of the other people here in Saskatchewan that also do a kind of like a semi-regular podcast and have done a little bit of video in the past, but I am going to nominate the fellas Adam, Ryan, and Chad from Of Dice and Men. Their podcast really inspired us to get our own podcast going at one point in time, and their conversations and their insights into so many things in the tabletop industry are very genuine, very intriguing. So definitely go and take a look at their back catalog, and they're back doing somewhat regular content creation still again. So please look up Of Dice and Men. And then the last ones that I would really love to hear all their inputs and want to see all these types of questions answered is somebody that I interact with on Twitter quite a number of times, and I love sharing their content and watching their content, and that is the Cardboard Kid and the Cardboard family. Watching them interact with each other and other people in the board gaming space, they are highly respected. Really top quality content and conversation and insights into their review. Lots of hard work has gone into their reviews, and lots of blood, sweat, and tears at times and everything. So I really would like to see how the Cardboard Kid would answer lots of these problems. So I am tagging all of you: Meeple Dungeon, Dice and Dragons, Cardboard Conjecture, Of Dice and Men, and the Cardboard Kid. Okay, folks, I didn't actually know how long this was going to take. It looks like I'm fast approaching about 40 minutes here, which is fantastic. If you are enjoying the content on my channel, Mista Rau's Gaming Rants and Reviews, I highly recommend you to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you get notified when new videos come out. And give me a comment. How did you like my answers in this tabletop tag? Are there things that you agreed with? Are there things that you didn't agree with? How close are we in our gaming styles in this fantastic and very diverse and wondrous hobby that we love to call board games and tabletop games? All right, folks. I've been Ryan, Mista Rau's Gaming Rants and Reviews, and this Tabletop Tag episode is officially over.